the spirit of our elders. These are the living legends. Dr. Malana Karinga.
Welcome to another feature of Eavesdropping on the Elders. Yes, I know it's been a long time since we featured a new program, but we like to let them run for a little while because you really need to hear these stories and to hear them often and to have them repeat themselves. And today, just like all the other ones, we have a very, very special show here on Eavesdropping on the Elders. And it's just with a lot of pride and honor and privilege that I do this show, not only in general, but today particularly with the gentleman that we're going to be talking to here on Eavesdropping on the Elders. We have thus far done shows with Dr. Herbert Smitherman, of course, an outstanding chemist at Procter & Gamble, who was a pioneer in a lot of the efforts there among black employees, started the Black Employee Association at Procter & Gamble, did some outstanding things with his skills and business acumen as a chemist. He has patents that, for things that he invented and during his work at Procter & Gamble. We also did Emily Spicer. Of course, everybody knows Emily from education and being at Woodward High School and other areas of administration in Cincinnati Public Schools. We did Lois Wilson, who was very active in the field, or in the, what can I say, it's not a field, but in the sport of bowling, and worked with the National Bowling Association. And what she did was, among other things, was to bring the National Bowling Association national office to Cincinnati. And for those of you who did not see that show, that office is housed here in Cincinnati out on Reading Road. And Lois's work, along with the work of George Wilson, they were not related, and others, resulted in that feat. I put quotes around that. What's wrong with me today? And we also featured our last elder, Cleaster Mims. Education once again. Cleaster has helped just countless numbers of young people in our city with her schools, and we were very proud and honored to feature her on this show. Today, like I said, very, very, very special. We have with us today one of our elders in the community, and we have a young man who lives in the community as well. I decided to put a different twist on this show. And today we're going to be talking to Handy Matthews, officer, police officer, elder, citizen of Cincinnati. And when you hear his story, some of you may know it, but I would bet that only few of you really know the details about all the things that he has done. Handy Matthews, welcome to Eavesdropping on the Elders.
Glad to be a part of the situation.
I appreciate it. And we also have Officer Scotty Johnson. Is it Officer Scotty?
Specialist.
Okay, I'll get these titles right.
But it's all good.
Specialist Scotty
Yeah.
Johnson. Man, I really appreciate you sitting in today.
I appreciate being here, Jim, and sitting with a legend like
There you
Mr.
go.
Matthews, man, and just all of the tracks he laid for us.
That's
where
right.
we are today.
That's right.
It's a pleasure. It
That's
really
right.
is.
That's what we
It's a
want to get
pleasure.
into today. We're going to jump right into it. Before I do, let me thank Conscious Media Productions for giving us this opportunity to bring these shows to you. James Alexander has been just a trooper and has guided me through this process for nearly 3 years now. And we're just blessed to have him and to be able to work with him to bring these shows to you, Eavesdropping on the Elders, as well as a Blackonomics show. So, Handy Matthews, what was your title when you left the police force?
Sergeant.
Okay, I'm gonna call you Sergeant
Handy
Handy
Matthews.
Matthews. All right. I want you to take us back to the beginning. Were you born in Cincinnati? Where'd you go to high school or elementary school? Tell us a little bit about your parents, your grandparents. What guided you in your early age?
I was born in Indianola, Mississippi,
Oh, okay.
but my father decided we should move to Cincinnati. Things were so bad in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
He came to Cincinnati there, and I started at Washburn Elementary School downtown,
Yeah.
and went there to the 5th grade. Therein, my parents moved further closer to Central Avenue between Central and John, which put me in the district of 6th District, which was on Elm Street.
6th District School, I remember that.
This was a predominantly white school,
Uh-huh.
white populated school. Therein, I left 6th District and went to Rothenburg. Rothenburg had just been built, brand new school.
And what year was that? Around.
Around, let's see,
Late 30s?
yes, late 30s.
Okay, okay.
In the late 30s, I went to Rothenburg School. I stayed there 10 years, 2 years. And my parents moved again to Clark and Bay Military, which puts me in the district of Bloom Junior High.
Okay.
At Bloom Junior High in the 9th grade, I came in contact with the students. I was in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade at Washburn. They were at Bloom in the 9th grade. At Bloom, after 2 months there, they called me to the office and said, "We have to send you to the Board of Education. You have a phenomenal brain. You are a super student." They gave me coffee and sent me to the Board of Education and tested me. I was not a super brain. But going to Rothenburg, predominantly white school, I had a better basic education than my students, fellow students at Bloom. Therefore, my grades were so much higher than those because of my basic education. I left Bloom and went to Woodward High School, and therein I graduated.
And Woodward was located at that time.
Downtown, where the School of Performing Arts is
Okay,
now.
okay, all right.
I left Woodward High School and looking for employment, which was very difficult at that time, was the police department. I took the application and passed the test and was accepted in the police department, wherein I walked a beat by myself with just a stick and a little gun on my side. And that was downtown. The station was on York Street, therefore.
I remember that. They called it Station X, didn't they?
Well,
When I was growing up on York
okay,
Street.
that was District 1.
Okay.
Okay. We well, I had to walk because I couldn't be assigned a white partner. So
Wow.
because that was the rules and regulations of the police department, we weren't integrated at that particular time. And therefore, those of us who graduated from the police academy, there were 9 blacks. 4 of us went to District 1, 5 of us went to District 4, which was downtown on 5th Street. 9th Street was the dividing line, and those men worked south of 9th Street. We worked north of 9th Street.
Okay.
But I had to walk a beat because we didn't have blacks in cars then. We had 1 car that was down used, and the rest of us had to walk a beat. We didn't have what they have now.
Yeah.
Radios, gas gun, tasers. We didn't have all of that. My walking a beat, I encountered some persons that I placed under arrest because they were disturbing a church which was having services. But I couldn't call for a car to come pick them up. I had to walk those.
What?
Walk those 4 people to a call box at Liberty, and Freeman. While on the call box trying to call to get a car, I was stabbed in the chest.
What?
Yes. And the 4 people, I managed to hold them there until police arrived.
You held 4 people while you were stabbed.
Yes, but I did not shoot either one of them. They took me to the hospital, and later I recovered and came back to my beat. The person that stabbed me, his son, approached me and said, thank you, Mr.
Wow.
Matthews, for not killing my father. I know he deserted after he stabbed you in the chest."
Scotty, today, if that had happened to a police officer,
Wow.
can you imagine?
No, and we know, unfortunately, for that, whoever stabbed Sergeant Matthews, at this point in time, he would have been shot and killed.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And then, just to hear Sergeant Matthews talk about the call boxes. The fact that they had to walk a beat.
Yeah.
Walking a beat now would be considered punishment. You know, it would be considered punishment.
I remember growing up, I lived on York Street, about 3 blocks from that police station that we used to call Station X. It's down by where Crosley Field was. And I remember the police officers walking up and down the street, and we knew them.
Right, exactly.
You know, and we spoke, they spoke, because we got in trouble. They knew where to find us, so, you know, they knew where we lived.
Exactly.
So it was indeed a community back then.
And then I think what has happened, unfortunately, the disconnect from the police and the community is that they put us in cars, which are seriously is very necessary at this point.
Right.
Put us in cars, and I think by design, the separation from the police and the community, so you can pit one against the other.
Yeah.
So I think although modern technology has definitely necessary and moved us forward,
Right.
by design it has caused a divide.
There's a downside,
and it
too.
has caused you
Yeah.
not to be able to know everybody in your community.
Right.
If you ask Sergeant Matthews, I guarantee you, he'll tell you, he probably knew everybody on that beat.
Yeah.
When I walked the beat, I was their policeman.
Yeah.
And all night long, if I walked the beat, I oversaw the community to make sure they were safe.
Yeah.
Make sure that nothing happened to them in their homes. And therefore, they considered me their policeman.
Yeah.
And I had all the cooperation there was if some crimes did happen, with somebody telling me who, where, what, in order for me to solve that particular crime, because I was protecting their community.
Right. Tell me about when you walked the beat. What did you stay on that same beat, or did they move you from place to place? Tell us about the first beat you walked. Where was it?
It was on York Street where you were living.
Okay. I probably saw you then. You probably took me down to the police station a couple of times.
No, but I walked that beat and had to find a call box because we had to call in, report in, and the Liberty Street to 1 block past York Street is where my beat was. And the people, well, I was raised in the West End, so you knew the people
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Because when I worked the second shift, somebody always invited me in for dinner. I was their policeman.
Wow.
You could stop it, yes.
Yeah.
Because all night long when you walked the beat by yourself, they were sleeping. They could sleep
Right.
because it was going to be safe in there. If I walked that beat,
Yeah.
nobody else was going to break into their house or grab their women.
Wow.
But that lasted for a couple of years. I was transferred to District 4, which is on 5th Street downtown, south of 9th Street.
Right.
Therein, I was put in plain clothes. Well, just before being put into plain clothes, the chief called me to his office one day. His name was Stanley R. Sortel. He just made
Oh, yeah.
chief.
Stan
When I
Sortel.
came out of the police academy, 2 months later, he became a chief. He called me to his office and said, "Handy, do you know Mrs. Lazarus? The Lazarus store owners all over the United States."
Shillitoe, yeah.
Shillitoe's at that time downtown. I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "She wants you to go with her and be in a playhouse in the park. You go with Miss Lazarus and do what she wants you to do." Therefore, I went and started my career at Playhouse in the Park. And I acted. But out of that, WCIN was just coming into Cincinnati. I met a man named Charles Scruggs. We called him Bug Scruggs.
Scruggs.
Bug Scruggs had a program on WCIN.
Yeah.
He asked me to come with him, and I did a radio show. There was no television those days. A radio show on traffic safety. I had been transferred to the Traffic Bureau, an all-white unit, but the chief was integrating the police department. Therefore, in broadcasting at the radio with Charles Scruggs, it was very popular because a lot of people didn't know regulations in reference to driving,
Right.
to operating a motor vehicle, licenses, and all of these things I was able to talk about. I went to my lieutenant in the traffic bureau and said, "Lieutenant, if I could carry a police radio, Bug Scruggs and I, we could follow accidents that happen throughout the city." He said, "Well, I can't give you permission for that, but write me a letter. I'll give it to the chief, and we'll see what he said." I wrote a beautiful letter indicating the benefit this was to the public and to the city of Cincinnati. I didn't hear anything. And 2 weeks later, WLW bought a helicopter, put Lieutenant Marion in the helicopter, and they flew
Marion,
around all over the city.
yeah.
And I never heard anything about my request.
He got the helicopter, huh?
They had more money than poor little WCIN.
Yeah.
You know,
Those were some interesting times, and while we didn't have a lot of resources back then, there was a lot of opportunity for innovation and creativity. Like you just said, you looked up one day and you were in radio,
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
And again, the parallels. I want to talk about some parallels between Scotty's life and your life, because I'm just seeing them all the time. Because he was in radio too.
Absolutely.
Bug Scruggs, that's the name from the past. Bug Scruggs, the man with the plugs, back on the scene
with my record machine.
Scotty, you don't know nothing about that.
No, I've heard about it.
Right.
But yeah, okay, that's how they went, huh?
That was his saying. Every time he'd come on, that's what he'd say. Man.
Bug Scruggs is still alive. He's doing a TV show with children in Memphis, Tennessee. He called me long distance the night Obama was elected president.
Oh, he did?
He said, I know you were watching because you work so hard to get young black men somewhere in life.
Yeah.
And this to you, I'm sure, I said, it's a coup de grace. I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes because of this election.
Wow.
Let's go back a little bit and just talk about. You said there were 9 blacks in this class that you were in, and one was, of course, Brother Crumb, right?
Yes. I went to District 1, Brother Crumb went to District 4.
And that's Artie Crumb.
Artie Crumb.
Mm-hmm.
We came out the class together, but we were in separate situations. I was transferred out of District 1 to District 4, where we worked together, but I was in plain clothes and he was a uniform officer. Later on in my career, after I made sergeant, I came back to District 1, and I was Artie Crumb's boss.
Oh, yeah?
I was his sergeant, but he was a good police officer.
Yeah.
He was a good police officer, and he made my whole unit look very good because of the work that he did and the way he conducted himself as a police officer. In the 60s, we had a riot in Cincinnati.
Right.
I was then transferred to what they call the Juvenile Bureau. We youth were working with children, but I patrolled out during the riots. After the riots, the chief of police directed me to write a letter to Washington, D.C., indicating Cincinnati's involvement in curtailing the riots. Also included in that, how now can the city of Cincinnati Police Department now better serve Cincinnati? My recommendation was an outline of what